Hey guys, and welcome to a new video. Today I want to present to you my League Starter plans, my League Starter build, as well as everything that I'm going to do from like the beginning in the Twilight Strand up to hopefully Endgame mapping. And it's going to be the EK Ignite Elementalist, originally created by David. So the thing here is, I've seen a lot of people struggling with the EK Ignite, with the transition, and what do I do before. So that's why I want to take my time and really explain to you what my plans are, how I'm going to approach this. Because honestly, I started this build when I already had currency. When I had already like I don't know 100 divines to invest. You know, picking up a 6-link, picking up all these kind of things. And there has been a lot of people that told me that this sucks early on. You can only make this build work if you have, I don't know, 500 divines, if you have your explodey bow, if you have a double corrupted chest, and so on. And I highly disagree with all of that. And that's why I'm going to take it as my League Starter to just prove and give you guys an upgrade path on how we're going to approach this build based on my knowledge, based on my experience that I made so far in the last league playing this build. Overall, I would say this is probably one of the, if not the best build that I've ever played. I'm having so much fun with it. It is fast, the clear speed is ridiculous, it's super satisfying, big explosions, Herald of Ash, insane single target damage, capable of doing all content, Simulacrum wave 30 with 7 treasure chests if you have a Headhunter. Everything is possible in this build. The upgrade path is super sweet, and the scaling is somewhere where you could say, hey, I could probably play this with less than 10 divines, but I could also spend over 10 mirrors into it, and I might still not even be done because it is a conversion build. We are having a physical spell going into cold conversion, into fire conversion, and so on. So scaling wise is like unlimited, and that's why I think it is a build that you can definitely play for a longer amount of time, and whatever content you throw at it, it is just going to be an absolute breeze. It is not the insanest mapper, it's not the ultimate best boss killer, it's not the best simulacrum farmer. Well, maybe it is, but you know what I want to say is, like, this build is just an overall insane package of doing all content, and overall well-rounded beast, if you want to call it like that. And these are the kind of characters that I want to play, or that I enjoy, with even the option to go in a magic find route, which I think might be quite profitable early on when you just grind out maps, throw magic find gear because you don't need hilarious amounts of damage. Good. Before we start into the build portion or my upgrade path, I am not somebody that likes to do League Starters because I think they are kind of irrelevant for my own style. Because do I see myself playing with less than 1 divine until endgame? No, absolutely not, because I'm playing the game, I'm going to find currency, I'm going to upgrade the build, and if I get like 10 divines investment to my character, I wouldn't call it League Starter anymore. And if this is day 1, day 2, day 3 of the league, then, you know, I don't want to fool people by saying, yo, this is a League Starter, this is super cheap, you will do all the content with breeze. And then when I actually play it, I'm going to upgrade my character, and all of a sudden it's not a League Starter anymore because it has 20 divine, 30 divines investment into it, right? So don't get fooled by that. I want to just give you guys a good overview about this build. On the next hand, for me, it is very important you guys understand that it is not, you should not pick your League Starter based on what other people say. Just because I say I love this build doesn't mean you guys will love this build, okay? There is also the component, hey, if this build is getting too popular, all the items are going to be very, very expensive from the get-go, because a lot of people might be interested in playing with Conviction, Ignite, EK, Transition, blah, blah, blah. So if you are not something that is like farming a lot early on, you might get stuck, because even the simple, easy items will cost you like a fuck ton of currency, and this makes it rather bad in that case, right? Unless you say, like, I don't care, this build is amazing, I'm gonna go for it anyways, and even if I farm low tier maps to get my currency going, I'll do that because this is basically what I'm going to do. I also know here, as a small thing here, I'm just gonna like yoink something of Tai Killer. He recently posted his like League Starter tier list, basically, right? So let me pull this one up. This is the list from Tai Killer, and you see here Poison Seismic Trap, Ignite Wave Conviction, EK Vortex, EA Ballista, Bone Shatter Slayer, Poisonous Concoction, Righteous Fire, Detonate That, Necromancer, Cold Dot, Corrupting Fever, Venom Gyre, Bane, Absolution, SRS, CA, Artillery Ballista, Spark Inquisitor, Explosive Trap, Ice Trap, Rage Vortex, SST, Shield Crush, Glad or Occultist, Hex Blast, Rain of Arrows, or Lightning Arrow, Helix, Cyclone, Shockwave Slayer, and so on. Everything is possible in this league. please pick a build that you say, yo, this is the one that interests me the most, because in the end of the day, you don't need to be the first one at maps, you don't need to be the first one that kills the uber searing XR either of Walt, whatever. Just make sure that you're gonna have fun and enjoy the build that you're playing. Doesn't matter if it's the best, if it's the worst. The only thing that counts is if you like it or not. Good. Then I would say, let's start with the basics. How am I going to start? Obviously, I'm going to pick the witch in the character selection, and I'm going to spend like 30 minutes trying to figure out what name I will give her. And in the end of the day, it is going to be an Ignite build from the get-go, so I'm going to just go with the flow and pick up Fireball in the start. I will just stay Fireball because Wave of Conviction is a skill gem that we're going to transition to early on, and this is going to be Act 2. So what you do until Act 2, this first hour of the league, I don't think it matters too much in the end, right? So if you go over here, if I would pick up, I think it was this one. So how could this potentially look like, right? So we could go over, take a Fireball with Early Proliferation and Combustion support. We can pick up for additional DPS some Holy Flame Totem with Infused Channeling. Maybe even get like, what is it, Summon Phantasms in there and stuff. We're gonna pick up Flamewell early on because everything here scales the same way. We are doing fire damage, fire.multi, damage over time multiplier, all these kind of things. And we're gonna use like Flame Surge early on, Clarity, Vitality, what you can use. We're gonna have the skill sockets empty, so why not just use it? Act 2, we're going to pick up Herald of Ash. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, Herald of Ash is love, so why not? In Act 3, or Act 2/3, we're going to swap to the Wave of Conviction with Proliferation, Combustion, and Cruelty support once we get a Full Link. If you don't have Cruelty, if you don't have Combustion, you know, take something that you can take, even like edit fire damage, because it's a Fizz spell, so Fizz's extra fire is good. So whatever you get, you know, it doesn't have to be the undisputed best. We're not racers, at least I am not, so if I take 10 minutes longer for an act, absolutely no problem. Then as soon as we swap to Wave Conviction, we want to take the Fire Mastery. So early on, I would say if we make a fast tree, I would probably go for like this, maybe Jewel Slot, always like questionable because we're not going to have Jewel Slots, but I think going Alley Overload early on makes sense. And then we're going to path over here and take here the Fire Notes, as well as like Life Notes, then maybe over here with the increased chance to ignite. So I would say this would be my first 20-30 points, something like that. Should be quite easy to achieve without any problems. But the big thing here is we want to take the Fire Mastery with the conversion for the Wave of Conviction. So here is one thing that I want to point out, the Labyrinth. So the first ascendancy point is going to be Shaper of Flames. This is the one that gives us all the damage. This is the one that lets all of our damage ignite and will ignite like 100% chance. And then we're going to respec those chance to ignite nodes and pick the multipliers. Same over here. Here we picked a chance to ignite with the first lap. We don't need this anymore, so we can take the fire.multi and respec out of the chance to ignite and then just follow up with like some life notes. You know, if you need some resistance, you can go over Faith of Steel, maybe another Jewel Slot, maybe the life notes over here. We can also take Divine Judgment, and then follow along on the right side. We could take the faster ignites over here until we develop more on the right side. If you want to go more tanky, life notes over here, life notes over here, maybe even this one with Corrupted Blood Mastery would be a decent choice. You know, you can even go over here with like the AoE, the Discipline Training, the Sanctuary. So there are not like super limitations on how you go. The only thing that I want to point out here, trying to get Ellie Overload, trying to get the Fire Masteries over here, and then put in some lives and resistance, and you should be fine. Here on the Divine Judgment, this is also quite nice with the Divine Fury to get some extra damage out of it, right? So just as a small like, yeah, how do we gonna start this entire tree, right? Then we're gonna add the Herald of Purity as well as a Flammability, a self-cast. This will help for bosses. Then in Act 4 we can use our Arcanist brand setup with a Flame Surge that will give us extra single target based on the ignites that we inflict, and Flammability with the Arcanist brand, so we have like an automated system over here. And then in Act 6 you can swap to Hrimsora Gloves, but the thing is, you need the conversion, okay? And Hrimsora Gloves are, with a revamp, giving you 100% fist to cold conversion, and this would be mandatory, I would say, to swap to EK Ignite in that case. I don't think it's gonna be better than Wave of Conviction, though, this early on, but since I want to play EK Ignite, I don't really care too much, and in the matter of, like, progressing in the what do you say, going through the campaign, you know, doesn't really matter. Like, as long as you're not running around and doing like auto attacks and trying to kill bosses, you should be fine. But note, if you have the Rimsor gloves and you swap to EK, we need a call to fire support so we actually get all of these things going. You don't want to do this before the first lab though, right? Because Rimsor gloves are like an early unique, I think like level 10 or something. And then we would have a set of like EK, LE Prolif, Call to Fire Support, Combustion, maybe even later with Ignite Prolif instead of LE Prolif once you hit like level 38 and get the support gem. So actually LE Prolif would actually be bad here. I would say let's do Ignite Prolif. Then later on we can swap to Eldritch Battery, Hatred, Determination, and I would not recommend using Mind Over Matter early on. I did this in the Mayhem event. Mind Over Matter and Eldritch Battery kinda sucks early on, and I say how it is just because whatever, you don't have the lead, you don't have the regen, you don't have any resource, right? So if you're stuck with like a bleed, with an ignite, like whatever dots, degen, poison, whatever it is, you're just never gonna have any form of energy shield to even be able to cast your EKs, right? So Eldritch Battery might be a thing, definitely, because you know, then you can reserve up all of your mana. You can add like Hatred, Determination, maybe add here the mana reservation nodes over here, mana reservation over here, and then throw in the Herald of Ash, the Herald of Purity, and go from there without any without thinking about Enlighten support and how do you get those kind of things going, right? Here is also nice. Firewalker, Lightning Walker, Frostwalker, Lightning and Firewalker will count for Wave of Conviction because it's a physical and lightning based attack and fire. Cold Frostwalker would be its one skill point and it gives you 15 cold rest. So this is just what I say. Hey, if you need resistances early on, right? You can pick up these, like it's 15 all res. It's not the best, but it's also like 2 count towards with conviction, and the other one is like 15 cold res, so 15 all res over here, all res over here, and just like go with the flow and pick up more auras. And I would actually say Purity of Elements is probably gonna be one of my first auras. I'm pretty sure that I will try with this like kind of setup with the mana reservation efficiency to run Determination, Purity of Elements, and Herald of Ash as my core 3 auras, and then not worrying too much about Hatred and Malevolence and those kind of things. Well, Hatred is very strong, so I would say until, like, when I go with EK, then I'm most likely gonna use Hatred because it's gonna be a massive, massive damage boost. Maybe even skipping Determination because, in my opinion, Purity of Elements, Ailment Immunity is more important for myself, right? If you say, yo, I'm dying all the time because I get, like, you know, auto-attacked and whatnot, I just get cleaved down, then please use Determination over Purity of Elements as long as you're res capped. Good. The Blessing support thing will be something later on, like once we go mapping, because we need like 1,000 energy shield with the Eldritch Battery to even make this work, because with the Blessing support and Malevolence, we have quite some mana cost, I think like 800 or 900, so if you don't have the resource of energy shield, you just don't care about this at all for now, okay? But if you're gonna pick this up, make sure to take the Reservation Mastery with the non-curse auras have 50% increased duration, which will count for a blessing skill, so they don't last like 15 seconds, they're gonna last like 25 seconds or something like that, and it's gonna be a lot smoother when it comes to the mapping, right? Good. Later on, we're gonna go with Mastermind of Discord as well as Heart of Destruction. Not really because of Mastermind of Discord, but it's a travel node until Heart of Destruction. This one is insane. 30% more LE damage for our Ignites and AoE for our mapping experience. This is just one of the best nodes in the game, in my opinion, from the ascendancy point of view. But with the Mastermind of Discord in mind, you want to inflict some form of exposure. Wave of Conviction has a built-in exposure, EK does not, and that's why we then have later on like things like Hydrosphere and stuff like that. But based on the gearing aspect, right, this is when we actually want to have physical to cold conversion in other forms rather than the Rimsor gloves, right? Because the gloves are giving us the exposure with the Eldritch implicit that we need to get this, all of this like minus resistance to the monsters, and you're gonna definitely feel the damage impact it has. But we have to reach that with the cold mastery, physical damage convert to cold. And by the way, we're gonna swap away from the fire mastery then once we swap from the with conviction to the EK. But we're gonna have cold mastery, we need a Watcher's Eye, we need like gloves with the with a mod for physical to then have the 100% physical to cold conversion without using Rimsor, so we can use the exposure and it's gonna be a big damage boost. Good. I would say let's talk about the next things, about the videos that I made already last league to see how things started, right? So I have here, I'm gonna link all of these videos in the description below if you wanna toggle along, right? This was the first version that I built up with the Ascendant's Touch, but I already had a Watcher's Eye, so it's like somewhere in between. Then I'm going over to the updated version where I already put in like I don't know, like 200, 300, 400 divines, because like I use a headhunter. It's obviously like half the cost, right? And most importantly, I made a video about the FAQ about EK Ignite Elementalist, going over to how much currency do I need to start the build, do I need a headhunter or magebot to make it work, what are the mandatory items, how does this build deal damage with the scaling, with all the like conversion, what are the layers of defense, how do you trigger the chain explosions, I cannot afford an exploding base bow, any substitutions, can this build be played with other ascendancies? How do you level with this build? What can this build do? Content. I always end up with 0 energy and shield and die, what to do. The Ascent Gentle Touch versus Obliterations versus the Exploding Bow. Why Eldritch Battery, Mind over Meta combination. Can this build be played as a Magic Finder? And the possible upgrade path. So there is like a 50 minutes video. I know it's long, but you know, when you're here to learn more about the build, more about the game, I think this video with the FAQ is definitely worth checking out to maybe answer a lot of the questions that you're gonna have based on the further upgrade path, right? Now I would say let's talk about the early progression, the early items that I think will be nice and how I'm going to do it, right? So as I said, I'm going to pick up these like all league starter thingies, right? So at some point, I would say the Rim Sorrow gloves for the Fist to Cold conversion would be mandatory. Then basically swap to EK Ignite with Cold to Fire support. And then if we move over, what would be the next big items where I would say they are cost efficient? I cannot predict the market. Don't get me wrong. I cannot predict the market. I don't know how much our rims are going to be, how much this item is going to be, how much are the other items are going to be. But I think Gloomfang might be a very, very good take here, because we're going to have Hydrosphere on our Arcanist brand. Our EK projectiles will bounce off the Hydrosphere, hit the target, and get, like, with all the conversion that we have, a lot of chaos damage. And we're gonna have really big single target damage once we add the Gloomfang. And I don't think that any other build uses Gloomfang, and they're like, I wouldn't say they're a common drop, they're still rare, but I think there should be enough Gloomfangs on the market to not make it very, very expensive. It's like, it's just bad if I open up PoE Trade right now, which I cannot because I need to sign in, because kicked me out for some reason. Doesn't matter, because it's still Kalandra League, I think, even if it's like still live or whatnot. So the prices just do not matter. Oh wait, this is actually a sneak peek. Wait a second. So Gloomfang is gonna be very important. The Rim Sorrow gloves, let me actually put it before I open it up again. Then the next thing that I would say would be interesting would be the ring from the pre-boss of the Searing Exile. I think the Black Star, right? Ring from a Black Star. So what this ring does is giving us, let me actually look over, the cover enemies in Ash. So they take like 20% or something more fire damage. This is gonna be insane for our raw damage output. Then maybe a flammability on hit ring, like either it's like an implicit, it can be fractured, it can be a warlord base, it can be anything like that. I think just having flammability on hit ring is like a very big increase of your damage overall. So I wouldn't bother too much with what stats are out there. You can always upgrade items, right? But I think this is pretty much it. I think once I get the Rim Sorrow gloves, that I think will be a chaos or two. This would be like one of the first things. Then Call to Fire support swapping to the EK. Then trying to find out how much Gloomfang is. The ring and the like the both rings will be something for like maybe day 3, day 4. You know, you need to have the ring. They need to get dropped. It's a boss drop. How expensive are they gonna be? Are they gonna be like 20 divines on the second day, or are they gonna be like 50 chaos? This is something where I would say this is not the section of a league start anymore, right? Because other than that, all your items are gonna be rare items, you know? So life, resistance, maybe some fire dot multi, stuff like that. And I think this is going to be a little bit further into the endgame department, which I'm gonna show you a sneak peek, and I hope I'm not gonna go to jail for showing something unpublished. But I'm currently writing on a complete endgame, and I mentioned this here, endgame version of EK Ignite, where I go over everything you need to know about all of the gearing aspect on max roll. This guide is not released yet. I'm gonna try to get it online in the next like 2 or 3 days, so you guys can read this. And as I said, this is endgame, okay? This has nothing to do with the league start that I'm talking here about, but this will lead to this kind of version with the exploding bow, with mana reservation, with the spell suppression cat. What are my endgame items? What flasks do I use? You know, all the skill breakdowns. What do you need to take care of? How does it even work? Our aura setups, the ascendancy choices explained. We go over the build info and scaling. You know, how does conversion work? What is physical as extra? What is converted to? What does it even do, right? What are faster ignites? How do we scale our offense and our defense with this build? What are our pantheons, our skill gems and passives? What do we go for? The linking aspect. What is important? What is not so important? What alternate qualities we might want to use? Our complete skill tree, for leveling this build, or at least like how our end game basically looks like, with detailed step by step. What cluster jewels do we need? What, you know, Watcher's Eye do we use? Forbidden Flame Flash? What are all these kind of things? Here there's another portion with the item overview, what might be interesting for you. What base types do we need? What stats do we need? How does this even work together? Do we essence craft it? What are the Searing Exarch and Eater of World implicits that we need for every single gear slot? Why do we use a Skin of the Loyal? Why do I think that this is like the best choice, with like the triple scaling of determination, or at least like armor, evasion, energy shield? How our main head should look like? What do we go for in the early stages, as well as like what is the best in-slot item, and just going over everything. And then you have a dedicated section for resources, how to farm currency with this build, a video guide for it, the path of building, a summary, and so on. So I hope I'm not gonna go to jail just because I showed unfinished work, but this is going to be live pretty soon, and I'm going to make probably a separate video about the end game version of EK Ignite, as far as I consider it end game, as far as what stats I want to reach here, right? And then the next part is, will it be the same in 320? We are gonna have new toys to play around, right? And maybe I'm gonna take a different route, maybe with like a mage blood, maybe with a rare belt, and see how things gonna work out, and just trying to make this build as perfect as possible. And I'm going to share the road along the way. Oh, one thing that I forgot here is very important here, obliteration. Obliteration ones are super easy. I think you can use them on level 52. They should be like, maybe early on, maybe like 3-4 chaos, but they rapidly gonna go down to like a chaos at max. And this is gonna be very nice. We're gonna then use a shield. We can use shield charge, for example, as your movement skill, right? And this is gonna give us extra explosions, and this will also inflict then later on the flammability on hit, and just gonna make like mapping a breeze. So I would say Hrim Sorrow, Obliteration one, the Gloomfang, and then whatever has to come, whatever currency we're gonna get. Good. One more thing that I want to mention here. I'm going to league start this, right? And I'm doing a league start diary on my YouTube channel. So I would recommend, if you want to toggle along and follow this build, or see how do I get these things going, then make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell, basically. Not because I'm like in need of clicks and everything, but I just think it's important, because I'm gonna do a video every single day where I say like, okay, yesterday I reached level 75. This is, I made the transition to EK Ignite. I found 5 chaos. How did I invest those 5 chaos? What items did I buy, right? How do I look for good rare items with life resistance to get it cheap but also very strong? So every day until the Atlas is fully clear and all the bosses are down, right? Until I have all my void stones and whatnot, I'm gonna do day by day, step by step. What did I farm? How did I make currency? How did I spend the currency on? Did I craft something? How does my PUB look like? Like every single day I'm gonna make an update on the current state of the build. So if you want to know, oh wait a second, I have 5 chaos, what do I do? What's the next thing? Then maybe you can check out the video that I uploaded in the future then to see how I went. This might not be the most effective way to do, but this is just like a showcase how I'm going to approach things. Because in the end of the day, for example, if the Gloomfang amulet is going to be 10 divines, and obviously we're not gonna buy an obliteration one for 5 chaos and say like, okay, we're gonna stay like that until we get a Gloomfang, for example, right? It's all gonna be based on the experience. I'm just gonna go with the flow and gonna share everything with you guys if you wanna toggle along. And yeah, guys, I think that's it for today's video. I hope you get a good overview on what my plan is, and I hope you guys enjoy the build as much as I do, and hopefully the prices are not going to be too ridiculous just because this build is going to be maybe even meta in the next league just because it is fucking insane. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.